Welcome back to Crime Chats. Tiny room, microphone, endless crimes.
Yeah. Trigger warning, this is about child loss and child death and moms taking the lives of their kids. Hey guys, welcome back to Crime Chats. My name is Lisa. Today is going to be a solo episode because, so last week I wasn't able to record with Hillary because I had my oldest at home all week. She was off of school, but she's at camp today along with my youngest, so it's just me. Anyway, so what are we getting into today? So, this is the month of May. Month of May has been Not All Moms Are Good Moms. So today we're talking about Andrea Yates. This month is Not All Moms Are Good Moms, but this case is a little bit different for me anyway. Like when I first heard of this case, obviously my first gut instinct was anger. How could a mom kill all 5 of her children? How can you just do that? But then as I got into it, it makes me more sad than angry, and we'll get into all the reasons why. But anyway, so without any further ado, so Andrea Yates. So before we get started, I wanted to share a quote from The Quest of the Golden Fleece, which is from Mythology by Edith Hamilton. So here's the quote: "To die by other hands more merciless than mine, no, I who gave them life will give them death. Oh, now no cowardice, no thought how young they are, how dear they are, how when they first were born, not that. I will forget that they are my sons. One moment, one short moment, then forever sorrow." So this quote really, I like this quote for this case because, anyway, we'll get into it. But, she did take the lives of her kids, so did die by her hands. But then forever sorrow after that because her kids have been tragically murdered. So okay, so introducing the case. So on the morning of June 20th, 2001, in Houston, Texas, a loving mother, so Andrea Yates, she drowned her 5 children in a bathtub. The nation struggled to understand how such a crime could occur. So the children, Noah, John, Paul, Luke, and Mary, ranged in age from 7 years down to just 6 months. After the act, Andrea called 911 and then called her husband, Rusty, saying only, "It's time." When police arrived, she led them to 4 of the children laid out on the bed, and 7-year-old Noah was still in the tub. Today we explore how a valedictorian and registered nurse reached a point where she believed the only way to save her children, save their souls, was to take their lives. So this... I don't even know, the last case that Hillary talked about, the dark times are upon us. It kind of reminds me a little bit of that. But with that one, there was just no information. So luckily with this one, there is more information, and we do we do know where her thoughts were coming from. She basically, Andrea Yates, so her early life, she showed no outward signs of future tragedy. So she was the valedictorian of her high school class. She was captain of the swim team, which I was on the swim team in high school, but I'm not very fast. And later, a highly regarded nurse at MD Anderson Hospital, which is a cancer hospital. She married Rusty Yates, a NASA engineer, at age 29. Friends noted that Andrea seemed to lose her identity after marriage, allowing Rusty to make family decisions, which, it's easy to lose yourself in motherhood. I know I have, but I don't know. If you get with somebody and you guys want to have a more traditional marriage, that's traditionally, the man of the house, the husband, and which I'm not trying to get into a discussion about that, but anyway, so it seems like they had a very traditional marriage. So she kind of allowed Rusty to make all the family decisions. Rusty wanted a large family and insisted on homeschooling to prevent the children from picking up bad habits in public schools, which, I don't disagree with that. My husband and I don't do public school either. We don't think that it's the best place for our kids. But anyway, so Andrea committed herself to being a super mom, hand-making costumes and crafts for every holiday. She, she was cooking and taking care of the kids, stay-at-home mom. Like, she chose to have that role, which, I don't know how much influence Rusty had on her. It seems like quite a bit, but this could have also been her choice. Stay-at-home mom by choice. This could have just been what she thought was best. So I don't know. I'm not ready to give Rusty a bad rap or say that he's a bad guy here. It just seems like they had a traditional marriage. So mental illness ran in Andrea's family. 2 siblings suffered from depression, and a third had bipolar disorder. After her 4th son, Luke, was born in 1989, Andrea felt overwhelmed and she had depression. She experienced a feeling that Satan wanted her to kill her children, leading her to attempt suicide twice that year to protect them from herself. In another episode, I mentioned maternal instinct. So speaking of, like, when I was talking about the medical child abuse cases, I was like, it doesn't make sense that a mom would just completely ignore all of her maternal instincts. You want your kids to be happy, right? It seems like in this case, her maternal instinct, it was extreme. I wouldn't have, I don't condone killing yourself to keep from harming your children. There's other ways to do that, but that seemed to come from maternal instinct was, if Satan wants me to kill my kids, I'm going to kill myself so that doesn't happen. So she had that feeling Satan wanted her to kill her kids. And despite medical warnings about the high risk of recurrence of this postpartum depression, she and Rusty decided to have a 5th child, Mary. I feel like if you're having feelings Satan wants you to harm your children, you shouldn't have more children, because it's just going to make that worse potentially. She was warned, and her and Rusty were warned, so it kind of begs the question of, okay, why weren't those warnings taken more seriously? I'm not really sure. I watched a documentary about this, but it kind of went more into some other influences on her. It didn't really go into, like, the Rusty of it all, so I'm not really sure if he just ignored the warnings or if they decided together that it would be okay. I don't know. So I'm not willing to have an opinion on that. So following Mary's birth, Andrea's condition deteriorated into postpartum psychosis. So I had postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. Postpartum psychosis is really severe hallucinations, just these terrible intrusive thoughts. Hillary's not here, so I don't have the DSM-5 with me. I'm sure she'd love to look it up, though. She had officially diagnosed psychosis now, so this is, like, really severe. This is not to be downplayed or ignored. She really needed help. So she needed help for the safety of herself and her kids and her family. So again, this is part of what makes me so sad about this case, is she had this really severe mental illness that went largely not really treated or taken care of. So she believed that television commercials were mocking her mothering and that cameras were hidden in her home, even in her mother-in-law's glasses, to monitor her and to make sure that she was mothering well enough. So she kept these delusions secret, fearing Satan would use the information to force her to act. So that's really sad. She could have told somebody, and then that person would have been like, "Oh my God, let's get you some help. We need to save you, right? We need to treat you to get you well again." But again, she kept these a secret because her delusions were telling her if she said anything, it would only get worse. So really sad. Another really sad part about this story was that the Yates family was deeply influenced by Michael Woroniecki, who was a traveling preacher and spiritual teacher whose teachings were described as non-mainstream and cult-like. So his focus was on fear, control, and a ticking time bomb of spiritual warfare profoundly shaped Andrea's delusions. According to the documentary, they would play these tapes of Michael Woroniecki's sermons on repeat all day long. So, you have postpartum psychosis, you're keeping all of your evil, intrusive thoughts to yourself, and you're listening to this this preacher telling you that you're gonna go to hell all day long. I'm not, like, that's where the anger comes in for me, is this Michael Woroniecki. And I'll get more into that. But anyway, so he was really influencing her, and her delusions were just getting worse. She came to believe the one and only Satan was literally within her, fixating on a verse from the Gospel of Luke about a millstone being hung around the neck of those who cause children to stumble. So she thought that it was her fault, that her kids were going to go to hell because of her. She was a defective mom, and she just knew to have this millstone around her neck, and to I have the passage here, actually from Luke 17:2 of the Bible. It would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were thrown in the sea than that he should cause one of the little ones to stumble. So it's better to kill yourself than allow your kids to stumble and not have a good time, and then go to hell because of you, right? If it's your fault, kill yourself. So basically, she had this really strong belief that it was her fault, and that all her kids were going to go to hell, and that she was going to go to hell, and that it was just awful. It's just, she had this psychotic dilemma going on. So if the children lived to the age of accountability, so I think that means like the age where they're no longer kids and they have accountability for their actions and stuff like that. If they reached the age of accountability, they would burn in hell. But if she killed them while they were still innocent, they would be saved and go to heaven. Just awful. It's just awful that there was this man that was just continuing these illusions and harping on these things. It makes me so mad that there are people like him that exist in the world that truly believe. I don't even know if he truly believes it, right? We're never going to know how he actually feels in his head. But there are people that really think that they're God, and they know everything, and they're all-knowing, and they aren't. I'm just now starting on this spiritual, religious kind of journey that I'm on right now. I don't want to get too into it, but I've kind of been like leaning more into that kind of stuff lately. And I don't know exactly what I believe. Really, I can't really put words to it. It's more of like feelings right now. But I do believe in the power of the universe. And I do believe that the universe, does have controls of some sort, and that things happen for a reason, for example. I don't believe that anyone is as powerful as the universe. The universe is all-powerful, all-knowing. You can't, as a human being, be as powerful as the universe. It's just not a thing. So I don't understand people that pretend that they are, and that convince people that they are. And they know exactly who to target, these people that seem to already be in a bad way. They're already mentally unhealthy. They already have issues going on. So I'm going to go to that person and convince that person that I'm this all-knowing person who knows for a fact that they are wrong and they're going to go to hell. This documentary I watched interviewed a bunch of different people that followed this Michael guy. It wasn't just the Yates family, it was other people. And he just had all these people convinced that they were going to hell. Basically, Michael Woroniecki, he had his own large family. It got to a point where basically it was like him and his family were the only ones that would be saved and go to heaven, and the rest of them were just like fucking up, and the rest of them were just gonna burn. Which, like, what? I don't know. Like, it's awful. It's awful. It's awful. And I'm smiling. I don't know why, but it's awful. And I hate it. I hate that there are people like that in the world. It just really makes me mad. They all need to go away right now. So, again, she drowned her children. Andrea drowned her children, and she called the police. She confessed. I mean, she clearly did this. So she was arrested, and there were 2 trials in this case. 2 trials and 2 different verdicts. So the first trial was in 2002. And this jury on this trial they were death qualified, meaning that every juror agreed to impose the death penalty if it was warranted. These juries are statistically more conservative, and they're less likely to find a defendant not guilty by reason of insanity, or NTRI. So this jury found her guilty after only 3.5 hours, which, I mean, if you just look at it at face value, she drowned 5 of her kids. She drowned all of her children. Guilty, terrible, mom needs to be locked up forever. I mean, I'm not really surprised by that verdict, but there's more to it than that. It's more nuanced than that. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I see how that verdict happens, but I also can see the rest, which I'll get into right now. So after this, the verdict was overturned. So this guilty verdict was overturned because the prosecution's expert, Dr. Yates, he falsely testified. So, I mean, spoiler alert, I guess, but he testified that there's an episode of Law and Order on TV that featured a mom drowning her children, and this episode had aired shortly before the crime. So, oh my gosh, okay, she's insane. She saw this episode of Law and Order, and she thought that, oh my god, I believe this, and this is what I need to do, and I'm going to drown my kids too, just like that episode told me, which obviously is insane. The idea of doing what someone on TV does because it's TV. I mean, it's a TV show, you know. So obviously this woman's insane. So the guilty verdict was overturned. But like I said, spoilers, he falsely testified to that, so it was wrong. There was a second trial in 2006, so she was retried. Andrea was retried. The jury was not death qualified, so death penalty is off the table. This panel found her not guilty by reason of insanity, with the foreman stating that while she knew it was legally wrong, her delusional mind believed it was morally right. When we talk about, I mean, Hillary and I have talked about before about, like, not guilty by reason of insanity, how, you know, Hillary said that a very small percentage of the population would fit that. In this case, though, I can see it. I mean, she had postpartum psychosis. She was being influenced by this Michael Woroniecki guy. She was just all day, every day, feeling like she was a defective mom, and she was the reason her children were going to go to hell, and she needed to do this. So, I mean, I feel like the difference between not guilty or reason of insanity, I mean, it's easy to say, like, she couldn't really be insane because she planned the drownings, right? But if she was so delusional that she really, really felt in her soul that she needed to do this, then, I mean, she's going to plan it, right? But she's not in her right mind. So not guilty of reason of insanity does fit here for me anyway, in my opinion. So that's what ended up being the case. That was the final verdict. So afterwards, Andrea Yates, so she remains in a psychiatric hospital to this day. So she is in there, and she's carrying the permanent emotional burden of her actions. This case highlighted a deep public skepticism toward the insanity defense, which I can see that, because a lot of people, you know, a lot of people probably, I mean, myself included, I also, you know, people are like, oh, they beat the rap by just, oh, I'm insane. You know, I wasn't in my right mind when I did these awful things, Mr. Judge, whatever, you know. It's not, I can see how people can take advantage. But I don't think that was the case here. I think that she really was just completely out of her mind. She would not have been able to be rational or have any kind of reasoning. She needed, I mean, I really do think the insanity plea was right for her. And that's strange for me because, like, I hate that not guilty or reason of insanity. Like, I hate that verdict, because like I mentioned, a lot of people use it. So in this case, it fits for me. You know, a lot of people also were like, well, if they're not guilty of reason of insanity, they're not going to go to prison. They're going to be in this cushy psychiatric hospital forever, and they're not really going to be made to suffer for their crimes, which I think that prison, there should be a little suffering there, because, you know, you did something bad, you know. So again, I can see that. I can see people are just like, oh, well, now they're just going to spend their lives in the hospital. They need to be in prison. I mean, like, for example, my episode about Lisa McDaniel, she deserves to rot in prison forever for causing the death of Colin. Whereas Andrea Yates, I feel like she really, really just needs to be somewhere where they can help her with this. The documentary I watched, interviewed Rusty a bunch of times, and he doesn't seem to have any ill will toward Andrea. He seems to really understand the gravity of her mental state at the time. Again, like, it's I blame this Michael Woroniecki guy. I blame this son of a bitch who believed that he was a god, believed that he was just, you know, the universe, and he was just all powerful, and he could just proclaim that people were going to hell, and he could just proclaim that their kids were going to hell. And, you know, poor Andrea Yates, that's all she listened to. So, you know, I mean, I'm a stay-at-home mom. All you do is stay home and worry about your kids. So, I mean, if all you're doing is sitting at home worrying about your kids and listening to these terrible sermons, you're gonna believe them, you know. Yeah, so I blame him for this. I really wish that she had not kept her thoughts to herself, and I really wish that she had been able to reach out to somebody. I feel awful, but I also believe that that if she's given all the help that she needs, hopefully she can be helped to process all of this that happened. If it were me, I mean, I wouldn't want to come back to my mind after something like that. Like, I'd want to stay kind of in my delusions, because it's just so awful, and it's so tragic and sad, and it's just awful. I can't imagine. So I wouldn't want to come back to my mind, but that's the only way that you can heal. And so I really hope that she is getting the help that she needs, and that eventually, you know, I mean, unlike moms that medically abuse their children, I wouldn't be angry if Andrea Yates gets out of the hospital, if she is able to come back to her mind and to process all of the tragedy, and then she's able to kind of rebuild, and she's in her rational mind, and, you know, yeah, sure, she should be able to get out of the hospital. I don't know. It's an interesting one. This case is interesting for me. But I wanted to talk about this case because it's important. So it doesn't really 100% match my not all moms are good moms thing. But it's an important case to talk about. So anyway, so I will put all of my references that I used for this episode on our show notes. There's also links to support the show. We would love it if you could support us. That would be amazing, financially, or just rating and reviewing the show. That would be really cool. On Apple, you can just give us 5 stars or something. And we have merch on Amazon, just all of that good stuff. We also have like Facebook Reels and YouTube Shorts and TikTok videos, so you can also support us there with likes and such. Hope you liked this video. Me and Hillary will be back at it next week. We're going to be talking about Bundy, which is, it's weird saying he's my favorite serial killer, but he's my favorite serial killer, and I think it's just because he is the one that creeps me out the most, and I think it's because, you know, he was just like a regular guy, an attractive guy. There was no, like, you looked at him and you didn't get like an off vibe or anything. So I'm I'm excited to dive into him, and so our next episode will be about like his early life and kind of his upbringing and all of that. So that'll be really good. So tune in for that. We'll be live, so it'll be Wednesday this time, 10:30 in the morning. I hope you liked my solo episode. Okay, bye guys.